Hey guys, Don Durrett, Gold Stock Data. I created a part one of my favorites here in the premium, the newsletter favorites. So these are all the stocks that I own, my favorite stocks. And I sorted them by category and I did part one. So I explained all this. Now I'm going to do part two, which is the near-term producers, small producers, emerging mid-tier, and majors. So we'll just start and go down the list. First one is Newfound Gold. Market cap 730 million, so it's bounced a bit. It was a good opportunity when it went down to $1. Now it's at currently at $2. Oh. Um, Newfound, we don't know. I don't think we don't really have a resource. We don't really know how big, how much gold they have, but what we do know is they've had some unbelievable drill holes. I think they have at least 10 million ounces, but I'm guessing because we don't have a resource, a maiden resource. Um, they came out with a PEA for one open pit. I think it was 2 million ounces. They're going to put it into production in about 2 years. Um, but this is a long-term play. We're betting that we can expand production significantly. I think they can get to 400,000 ounces in 5 years. Maybe I'm too aggressive, but at a certain point, quality projects, if these turn out to be quality projects, in good jurisdictions during manias can really become extremely valuable. I have it. I don't have it as a top. I have it as a top pick. I don't have it as a top 25. Don't have it as a three. Because a lot of unknowns, but I I think it's going to do well over time. It's a bit of a spec bet. Let's put it that way. Cisco development, I have it as only as a 2.5. I don't have it as a five bagger, but I just updated, well, I'm updating my website to the default of $6,000 gold from currently five. And so if you use $6,000 gold, then this is going to turn into a three. This is probably going to, I think they're under construction right now. This is probably going to go into the top 25, might go to a B plus. I really like Osisko's under underground mine that they're building, plus the surface gold they haven't really talked about yet. I think they will. I think they have a lot of surface gold, which is kind of their pipeline they're not really talking about. Same market cap as Newfound Gold, but I think Osisko looks a lot better. It- I just, because of that, the surface gold that they're not mentioning. The previous company that before Osisko got their hands on the Caribou project, the previous company was focusing on only on surface gold, and they thought they had 20 million ounces, which is maybe that was hyperbole, but I think they have at least five. So the key is can they permit it? Maybe not. Um, so um, yeah, Caribou's under production. That's why it's a near-term producer. And there's not that many mid-tier producers in Canada. They're going to be one soon. So kind of want to own those companies. U.S. Gold, I think they're going to next year. It's up to 250 million. They're going to produce like 70,000 ounces for 12 plus years. In Wyoming, they should start construction um, next year, and so we're not going to get into production until 27. This stock was really cheap. I think I bought this like 250, and now it's like $15. So I've done really well with it. It was way oversold, but now it looks like um, still looks like a bit of a bargain here. Don't have it on the top 25. They don't have much of a pipeline. They have a big property, well, a lot of acres in Nevada that they're going to drill, and so that's their one blue sky. But that's one of the weaknesses with the stock. They don't really have much of a pipeline. Only 17 million shares outstanding. It's amazing they've been able to hold that. Rox Resources, again, this one would probably go to a five bagger. This is a development play. Well, a new producer, near-term producer, which is good. Um, Rox is in Western Australia, so this is going to be another mid-tier. So I love to own mid-tier producers in Australia. So Rox is going to join that party, and I do think this one there will be a five bagger. Silver Storm, they're going to start producing. This one is on the top 25. They're going to start producing, I think, second quarter of 26, 175 million market cap. I think the key for Silver Storm is their San Diego project. That's the reason it's on the top 25, not the La Parrilla project. Um, I like San Diego. I like, it's a low grade silver project, but as the price of silver goes higher, it becomes more and more economic. So Silver Storm is all about that. I think Silver Storm and Santa Cruz we're going to get to below or two of the better silver producer spec bets. Um, they could really rip, if you will. They have a lot of leverage. Impact is another small silver producer. Um, it's up to 83 million. Impact is, they've a company they've stuck around. They've been around a long time. It's just any company that's producing silver, if silver goes to 100 plus, is going to benefit. And they have a lot of drill targets. So as the price of silver gets higher, they get more free cash flow. They're only producing like 1 million ounces, really small, but they have a lot of targets. They have a lot of on their property, a lot of old mine workings that they areas where they can drill. So all they need is cash to do it. So I always considered Impact as kind of a, it's not a slam dunk. I have it as a B minus, and I don't have it as a top pick, but it's kind of one of those kind of must own stocks. I'm going to be disappointed if I don't own it because any silver producer is going to do well if it's in a good location and doesn't have a terrible balance sheet. They tend to watch their balance sheet. Like I said, they tend to survive. So SilverX, they came out with a really good PEA. I think this company is going to get taken out because they have 200 million ounces of silver equivalent, and they're only 118 million, and they only have 20% insiders. I don't know if somebody goes after them. I don't know if they can fend them off. They're currently drilling. If they hit a couple of big holes, they're going to become even more attractive. Um, I would wish they were focusing on expanding production versus drilling. They have enough. They have 200 million ounces. They have plenty. But they just did a financing, and instead of spending that money on expansion, they're spending it on drilling. Hopefully that'll work out well. But I wish they would just double production of their existing mine. They're only producing 1 million ounces silver equivalent right now, which is kind of a nothing burger. But the PEA is to expand production to 6 million ounces of silver equivalent for only 82 million. So it's a spec bet. It's not a slam dunk. These small producers always add a lot of risk. Next small producer is Serato. This one is going to become an EM very, very quickly. Um, uh, they're building a mine in Portugal. They acquired Ascendant Resources, which I like that project. I owned Ascendant. Plus, they have an iron ore project that with $1 billion NPV in Canada that's they're not getting any value for. And then Argentina. Uh, this reminds me a lot of Denarius, two companies with a lot of leverage to the gold price. If they can just survive um, and stick around, make some money, they could really rip. So good spec bets, if you will. you never know who your winners are going to be. So when I find one that has, decent spec bet, this one I think is 40% insider ownership. I mean, these are stocks that could really rip. So I want to own those in tandem with the quality ones that we're going to get to. Okay, emerging majors. So these are stocks that should the emerging majors are the ones that um, have the growth, if you will. That's why they're EMs. That means emerging mid tiers. So Heliostar, top 25 with a B plus. They're building the Ana Paula mine, which is a really good quality project. Plus, they have a bunch of other projects they're working on to expand production. And so this is a really good growth story. But until these companies achieve their goals, they have a lot of risk. But I like the leverage. Integra, they're mining in Nevada. Florida Canyon, high cost, but they're generating free cash flow and building two projects, one in Nevada and one in Idaho. And I like Integra a lot. It's not going to pay off necessarily in the next 12 months, but I think it's going to keep getting better and better as the other two projects become more advanced. I like the fact that all the projects are in the U.S., so it's good risk locations. They're going to get benefit there. They're also trading in New York Stock Exchange, ITRG. That's the main symbol, say ITRV for Canada, but it's also a New York Stock Exchange stock, and that's going to benefit them. Denarius, again, this is very similar to Serato, small producer. But they are growing production faster. Um, you can see the difference between OS and fully diluted. So they have a bunch of warrants, 102 million. Denarius, they, like Serato, they just need to execute, stick around, not make mistakes. But those two companies, kind of you own them both. One of them should do well, maybe both. But they're a good pair. Basically, two companies with, a lot of upside, a lot of growth potential. I'm always looking for companies that are going to be adding. They have really good pipelines where they're going to be adding production. Um, Daenerys fits that one. West Red Lake. West Red Lake, we're going to have to wait and be patient for them to see how they can expand production. The Rowan mine, they're going to try to put that into production in about 2 years. I think Rowan's going to grow. I think Madsen's going to grow, but they don't have a pipeline other than Rowan where, we can't really see how they're going to get to 150,000 ounces right now. We're taking it on faith, but I like the location. Anytime you can get a mid-tier, this is an emerging mid-tier. Anytime you can get 80,000, by the way, mid-tier for me is 80,000 ounces. So these are companies that are under 80,000 ounces, but I expect them to get to 80. Um, you don't know when a company doesn't have a pipeline um, that you can see, then you're kind of going on faith and on hope, and that's kind of what West Red Lake is. But I think they're going to grow the company, have it as a B plus in top 25. I think they're going to be able to grow production again. Can't see it yet, but the Madsen drill holes have been pretty good. Rowan as well. So they have those two. I expect them to also do a deal, do an acquisition. Um, right now they're ramping up at Madsen. It hasn't been going great. So the stock is, I mean, it's at 374, which is pretty good size market cap, but as a 70,000 ounce producer, that's not great. So they're still fairly undervalued. Well, I have them as a 10 bagger. Go Gold. Go Gold. I really like the Los Ricos projects. They have two of them, 836 fully diluted. This stock has a ton of upside, but they have to build both projects. I think they're both market caps are both around 200, 250 million. So they're not really super high capexes. They're waiting for their permit to begin construction. I expect them to get their permit probably in Q4 this year, start construction next year of Los Ricos South. Um, but I'm a big fan of GoGold. That one looks to me looks really really strong. They're not going to get paid until they get that second mine built, so it's kind of a long termer. Talisker, last emerging mid-tier. Um, they're producing like 30,000 ounces right now, but they're supposed to go to, I think next year's 50, and then the year after that's 90. They have a nice little growth path. And I like the CEO, I like the location, British Columbia. Plus, they have a they have a ton of potential for growth. This is a company that could grow all the way just their current resources. The Braylorn mine, this thing could easily get to 150,000 ounces and perhaps 200,000 ounces of production. So it's a really juicy stock as long as they don't disappoint. These stocks are never slam dunks, but they're well positioned right now. They seem to be making some really nice progress. So I mean, if you look at Talisker and Serato and Denarius, I would put Talisker ahead of both of those companies as far as risk reward goes, but you never know who the winner is going to be. But right now, Talisker looks like they're really making some really good advancements. Um, and so all they have to do is keep the momentum going. Um, so we'll see how that unfolds. Silvercorp Metals, now we're at the mid-tier producers. I can go a little faster on these because a lot of these are just solid plays. So Silvercorp, I didn't really like. They divested into Ecuador. They got two projects in Ecuador. They've been making money in China, so it has a little bit of China risk. But I think it's okay for the next couple of years. So, I plan to sell Silvercorp late 27, late 28. I don't think I'll hold it in 29. So as long as I don't expect to see any war with Taiwan between now and 28 when Trump's in office, I don't think that'll happen. Very low chance of that. So I'm okay with the China. I have it as a B plus, top 25. This thing's probably, if we take, silver up, I'm taking silver to 150. It's probably is going to be a potential 10 bagger here. Silvercorp has a lot of leverage. I'm not super excited about their Ecuador plays, but I think they're going to acquire New Pacific. They own 28% of New Pacific, which New Pacific's fantastic. Two big projects in Bolivia, and I'm fine with Bolivia. So they're in the front seat, front row to acquire New Pacific. Vault Minerals, just really solid Aussie mid-tier producer. Don't need to say much about that one. Resolute, they're in West Africa, so it's not on the top 25. It's not a top pick. Bit of risk here, but it's trading in like a three multiple. And I don't, I'm okay with risk. Resolute's a company that most of you are going to pass on because the risk reward just isn't there. But again, I'm not trying to pick winners, so I think it fits in my potential winner bucket. Um, Gold prices go up. They have a lot of gold. They're going to generate a lot of free cash flow. Orezone is same story. Look at they're identical. Orezone's the same story as Resolute. I mean, both of these companies are trading very very low multiples, and so it's basically one of those high risk, high reward stocks, spec bets. And so that's kind of what I do. I basically load up my portfolio with quality at the base, and then after I get the base really, with physical and ETFs and mutual funds and majors, I get the base set, and then I can go after stocks like this. And I don't use high allocations for stocks like this. They're not going to get a full 1%, for instance. Santa Cruz on the top 25. I can't believe Santa Cruz dropped 30%. It's crazy. Because they actually have a nice pipeline. They're building a nice project right now to grow production. I think Santa Cruz is, I mentioned this earlier, is one of the small, they are a mid-tier producer, but you guys probably all know my top eight silver producers, and I would put Santa Cruz and Avino as nine and 10. I would actually put Santa Cruz above Silvercorp. Um, I put Silvercorp probably 11. Andean would be 12. But in the 8 and 9 spots, I would put Santa Cruz and Avino. Big fan of both of those. Regis, high quality mid tier producer in Australia. I think it probably will be a five bagger when I take this to 6,000. Benaros SA. This is a company, they have a new management team. Investors, so they were always Latin American based. Latin American management team, and I always looked at them, but I never bought them. They got down to like a two multiple, and a U.S. firm, Sun Valley Investments, went and took over. They hold over 50%, and they want to hold this for a long term. They're looking at growth, so I'm excited about it. I think it's all Latin South American based, but they have a nice pipeline. They have nice growth. Insiders at 60%. So I am excited about that one. West Gold, high quality Aussie mid tier. Don't need to say more. These stocks, these high quality Aussies, AX, these high quality Aussies that have they're green, they're on the top 25 with an A. They have a lot of gold. They have a good management team. They have a nice pipeline. They basically check all the boxes. K92. It's, this company has always performed up to 3.3. They're close to being an emerging major. 4 billion is my major number. So they've always done well, but they're very conservative. They've been drilling this project for like 10 years, single asset property, in Papua New Guinea, PNG, and they've been content. But at $6,000 gold, they're gonna do pretty good, even though it looks like way it's priced. It's got that single property. You don't really want to own single property assets. Something can go wrong, and if they don't have a backup, and you always want to kind of, it's better to have two mines than one. But they've, you know, at a certain point, I think they're going to acquire somebody else, but they've been content just to focus on their single asset, and all they do is find more gold and grow production. So it's kind of a solid play. Eris, Colombia, top 25, A minus. They have a nice pipeline, nice growth, um, and I'm definitely a fan of Eris. I think it should be a solid play. They have to build two mines, so we got to wait for them to do that. But they got a low multiple right now, so they are cheap. Discovery Silver. This is my favorite silver development play. Plus, they're doing really well. They acquired a project from Newmont, and they think they have 10 million ounces. So they're going to be expanding production up in Canada, and then they got the Cordero project in Mexico. And so once they get that, it's going to take 2 years to build Cordero, but I'm hoping they can begin construction next year. They're going to mine 35 million ounces like the first, I forget, 3 years, 5 years, and then it averages 32. There's 500. It's a billion ounce project, but they're going to, right now, the DFS is only 500 million ounces. Um, but it's amazing. Aya is a little longer term. They're not going to be able to get Boumadine into production until 2030, maybe 2031. That's kind of ugly. It's kind of a long wait, but um, I think Boumadine's going to grow in size. So right now it's 400,000 ounces of gold equivalent. They have, it's polymetallic, um, gold, silver, lead, and zinc, I believe. But it's currently 450 million ounces of silver equivalent. The irony is that they're mining as gold equivalent. Um, but I think Boumadine's going to get a lot bigger. So it's going to be tough for Aya to get it's at 1.6 billion to really rip. until we get to like 28. Because I don't think Zagounder is going to grow much between now and 28. So they're not going to really be growing production. But at a certain point, I think people are going to start valuing them for Boumediene. Jaguar, this is one of the better mid-tier producers out there. Probably should have an A minus, but they haven't restarted their mine yet. We're waiting for them. It's supposed to restart it in Q1. They currently only have one mine running, but they have. I really like this story. They have the new CEO. He kind of hit the ground running, put a plan in action. He wants to fill up his three mills, so he's got three 2,000 per day mills. Um, Only one's currently running, and it's run at a half. Um, so if he fills all three of them up, they're going to be at least 150,000 ounces a year, maybe more. He wants to do acquisitions. They have a good balance sheet, and they're very cheap. So I like that one a lot. Endeavor Silver. This is, Mormon, high quality, solid, kind of a must-own stock. Avino, another must-own, 10 bagger with an A 3.5 growth story. Yeah, Endeavor's also growth. They're building Pitarrilla, but Endeavor, La Precocia is just steady growth. Um, I think both of these stocks could get taken out, by the way, because they're both silver miners with 10 bagger upside. I think they're both vulnerable for takeover if somebody's looking for value. Asante, this is West Africa. It's in Ghana. Um, a lot of people are going to ignore it, but I think I like Ghana. I don't have a problem with it, so I'm kind of bullish. Asante. Don't have it as a top 25, but it could possibly get there. Fortuna, West African risk. They might go to a five bagger. To do. Um, Fortuna is a stock that I've always held. Management team's done a good job of executing. I wasn't really happy when they pivoted away from silver and started focusing on gold. I think their silver percent of silver revenue now is 10%. So I like to see them acquire Abra Silver and get back into the silver game, but they have a good management team. They execute well. Definitely kind of makes my list. Bellevue, West African, one of my Aussie 8 stocks. I don't have it on the top 25. I was They had some issues with grade and they came down. They're bounced back up. They were down to 850 million. Now they're back to 1.2. Um, Insider ownership is very low, so it looks like, they're vulnerable for getting taken out, but I don't see a lot of growth for them, so they're kind of the one Aussie 8 that it's been somewhat of a disappointment. I didn't expect them to run into those issues, and now I'm not seeing a lot of growth in their pipeline. So of the Aussie 8, I put them number 8, but we'll see how they do. But hopefully a turnaround story. Capricorn, West Africa, A quality. They've done an extremely good job of executing, and now they're growing. That's why they're got to 2.5. But I think it's a five bagger at $6,000 gold. Andean, no, I think there's close to a 10 bagger if we take it to $150 silver. Really strong insiders. They're in Bolivia, and then they're also in California with their Golden Queen mine. But they've done really well. Nice, strong, nice balance sheet. If they can grow production in Bolivia, which there's a good possibility they can do that. It's definitely looks like a pretty strong stock. Galliano, this is another one in Ghana. Um, they've they have some nice growth. Their cost right now, their costs are high, so don't have them on the top 25. Um, and I think that their costs are going to drop. But I'm excited about it because I think they're going to generate a lot of free cash flow, and I think their multiple is really low, and I think their multiple is going to go higher. Genesis, West Africa. Now this one's only a two. Excuse me, Western Australia. They have like 18 million ounces of gold. Nice growth, but a lot of the growth doesn't come in the near term. But I want to own these. It's wow, they're a major now, 4.8. That's amazing. So uh, these strong Aussie mid tiers, they're going to gobble each other up. They're going to gobble. There's a lot of mid tiers in Australia, so I want to own them. And Genesis is a company. They're going to grow production. They're going to grow through acquisitions. So it's definitely a stock I want to own. Um, Greatland. I always say on Twitter, I have a crush on Greatland. 3.4 billion. They're currently um, mining Telfer, which they acquired from Newmont, and Telfer's generating a lot of free cash flow. They have a really strong balance sheet, and then they're going to build their Havieron project, which is just absolutely fantastic, long life mine um, with very low cash cost. It's there's not very many projects in the Havieron that are as good as Havieron. So I'm excited. That's the reason why I like Greatland so much because of the Havieron project. Guanajuato, this is one that has been disappointed because they've done so much dilution, but it still prints as a possible 10 baggers. The key here is, do they keep diluting us? When are they going to stop? They diluted us like three times in 18 months. It just really smacked us hard. And I mean, the shares at 28 cents. It was up. I think it was north of 50 cents, and they diluted us, and it just got whacked. So that's what happens in small producers. Small producers will do that to you. You got to be really careful with them. But I I think they're going to figure a way out to grow production. That's one of the things they have to do. We'll see. America's Gold and Silver. Um, I have it as on the top 25. I'm expecting Paul Hewitt to grow production. He's focused on Galena, and he has three shafts. He's currently only using one. I think he's gonna, he's gonna find more silver and he's gonna expand production. I'm optimistic that company's gonna do well. They actually just did an acquisition last week, so it shows aggressiveness. Alkane, they're both in Western Australia, and they're also actually I think they're in other places in Australia, and then they have one other mine in I think Scandinavia. Um, it's I liked it. On the Mandalay project was the one that's in Scandinavia. I think it might be in Finland. But almost $1 billion company. But I think I don't have it as a top 25. But I'm optimistic about Alkane. They have a nice pipeline. They have some projects they're working on. Hochschild, been a bit of disappointment. But one thing about Hochschild, $2.5 billion company. One thing strong insiders, so they're not for sale. They are aggressive. They like to do acquisitions. They bought um, the Mara Rosa project from Amarillo Gold. Then they bought the Monte de Carmo from Cerrado. So they're always out there looking for projects to acquire. They just spun out their Vulcan project, which is 8 million ounces, but they kept 87% of the company. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to let that company basically dilute shares and de-risk that project. Then once it's basically ready, they'll go back and acquire it because they own 87%. That's my expectation. And Vulcan could easily add another 200,000 ounces. But yeah, Hochschild, I think. Ramelius, only a two. So that's what happened. These Aussie stocks, they can, Ramelius is up to 6 billion. Ramelius is a major too. So Genesis and Ramelius are both majors. Um, and Ramelius, they acquired Spartan. And when they acquired Spartan, they overpaid for it and it really hurt their valuation. So a lot of you are going to probably pass on Ramelius, but they they are shark. I mean, they acquired Spartan. They're going to try to do more aggressive, be more aggressive, do more deals, find a way to grow. They generate a lot of free cash flow. Orla Mining. This one also is not, it's a 2.5. There's a lot of 2.5s on these majors. Oh, we're not to majors yet. This is an emerging major. 4 billion, 4.3. So Orla got to the major level, which is amazing. Um, and DPM, well, I'll get there in a minute. That's 5. DPM's now a major as well. Okay, but DPM. Orla, when Orla is a new company, and not that new, but when it became a company about 3 years ago, I really liked what I saw. I jumped all over it. I'm like, they're a shark. They want to grow through acquisitions. They have really good free cash flow. I think they're going to keep growing. These are the kind of companies I really like. Basically growth stories. DPM Metals, they acquired Adriatic. They are on the top 25. And that Adriatic project's going to be lowering their costs next year. It was a really good acquisition. It was really solid. They like to grow through acquisitions. SSR Mining is another growth story. This is the first major on the list. SSR, they just acquired, another project, Cripple Creek from Newmont. These guys do an acquisition every 1 or 2 years, and I think they'll keep doing it. So, and I like these three sharks right here. They're all together. It's interesting. And then Artemis, I'm waiting for Artemis to do a deal. I mean, they have the Blackwater project. They're a single asset company, and I'm waiting for them to. They need a second mine. They know they need a second mine. Who are they going to acquire? I think Skeena would be a good fit for them. They might go after Talisker too. All three of them are in British Columbia. Endeavour Mining, this is probably the best West African miner. $10 billion. Unbelievable. Still trading at 5+ bagger. So as long as you don't mind West Africa, Endeavour and Perseus. And Perseus isn't on my list, it doesn't look like. That's interesting. Perseus should be on my list. B2Gold, they've had trouble with Mali. 50% of their production's in Mali. Their Fekola mines, their largest mine, 500,000 ounces a year. But I don't see that as long as, I see Fekola staying remaining open, and I don't think there's going to be nationalization. So I'm okay with the risk in Mali with B2. I wouldn't want to own a company that had a single mine in Mali, but they're trading like a 2 or 3 multiples, so you're basically getting it for half off. So half their production. If you lost half the production, it would probably still, you know, it still might break even over time, but I don't think they're going to lose Fekola. Core Mining, um, when I bump gold and silver prices up, this thing might go to a 5 bagger. Um, 5 times 20. Yeah, it might close 4 bagger, but Core's starting to get pricey here with a share price of almost $15. It did get to 20, which is crazy that it sold off this much because of New Gold. Eldorado, potentially could be a 5 bagger. They generate a lot of cash. They have a lot of gold. They're also a shark. They like to grow through acquisitions. Core is a shark. B2 is a shark. Endeavor's a shark. All these are sharks. The next one is Equinox, also a shark. $10 billion company. They're thinking of selling one of their largest mines in Brazil. I hope they don't sell. But even if they do, and then they're trying to get the Los Filos project, they're trying to get that one resolved in Mexico. So they have kind of two problems they need to fix. But I think they'll find a way to grow production. First Majestic, um, they they need to get that tax issue resolved in Mexico. I think it's really hurting them. They're up to $12, but I think they should be at 16, 18 right now. Um, and then next year, we need to hear more about Jarrett Canyon, getting that restarted. We want to hear more about Jarrett Canyon. They're not talking about Jarrett Canyon. So Jarrett Canyon, the tax issues. First, Fresnillo, this was one of the cheapest stocks. They were trading like $6, and now they're trading at 31. So it was a solid four bagger. Well, I mean, Fresnillo has outperformed even Coeur up to 22 billion. It was really, really cheap, and a lot of people didn't buy it. It's like I said, this is the cheapest Mormon, and it was, and now it's starting to get pricey. Pan American, still cheap, five plus bagger with an A, 14 billion. Um, and They acquired Mag, which was a big change for them, but Core, Core's actually going to pass them up, I think, when they add New Gold. G Mining Ventures, another shark. Pan American's a shark. Fresnillo is not. Well, Fresnillo just acquired Probe, so maybe now they're a shark. First Majestic, I expect them to do an acquisition. I consider them a shark, but they haven't done one, which was surprising to me. G Mining is definitely a shark. They've been acquiring projects, three of them. They're a buy and build company. They're currently have a one project under construction right now in Ghana, and as soon as it's done, they're going to build another one in Brazil. And by the time that one before they even get that one, they'll probably buy another one. So G Mining is a kind of a growth story. New Gold. So this one's going to come off the list because they got acquired. Um, and so by Coeur, which I think that was, and so they're about the same as Pan American if you add those two together, but they have more revenue than Pan American. Then Hecla and I am the last two. Um, Hecla, it doesn't have the big upside, but the one thing about Hecla, they're another shark. They'll probably do some acquisitions and they can grow that way. I want to own the sharks. IM Gold's another shark. They're going to do acquisitions. So I have a lot of these two fives, and then I want these stocks to. These are basically three baggers. I'd like that some of these will do better than that. So that's the newsletter favorites part two. So we'll end it there.